All right, you guys, we are ready for our final step for our bunny, which is gonna be adding all of the colors. So bear with me because we'll be kind of doing this in a couple of little steps as you'll see it jump through. So first, you guys have this little bag of roving that's your brown, your body color. And so you wanna take that out and start just separating those fibers. It's nice, it's usually in a little knot, which is nice. And then you just kind of start pulling it. I usually pull it apart quite a bit because there is a lot in there. It doesn't look like it in those little ounce baggies, but there is actually quite a bit of fiber put together in there. And you just start pulling it apart because you want those fibers to kind of evenly space out for what we're doing next. It'll probably take the whole bag of roving for his body, and that's no big deal. You might have a little left over. I know on this guy we had some left over, but you never know. Some colors lay a little differently than others. As you get it kind of separated, you'll just want to start kind of placing it over, and I find that, you kind of lay the first one, you go, okay, I don't need quite that much. So then you'll just slowly lay it over our body. I like to wrap it around because then I can kind of push those fibers around where I want them. It's really easy to layer back over if there's anywhere that you're not thrilled with. And then same thing we've been doing, you pull your needle, you're just condensing those fibers down into the forms that we've already created into those other fibers that are going to become one with one another. You'll see that we're starting to kind of get this pocking. That's no big deal. That is just that the fibers are starting to pull together and you just have some that are still sitting on top. So the more that you go kind of through this process, the more that will go away. So just trust in the process with that. It's hard sometimes, but trust in the process and make sure that you are just moving through with it. And you'll want to just kind of all over, make sure that you're moving it around. If you do notice, like I have a little bit of a bare spot right here, you can just kind of gently take the needle and pull it back across. It's not going to move a whole lot, and you want to be gentle with it, but you can kind of just move that fiber around and then condense once again. A lot of times once you start poking at that white spot, it'll start to cover up anyway because it's going to just pull in tighter and tighter and pull all the fibers from around it inward. So like I said, just continue to pull that over, poke all over the place. We're gonna cover the whole body. I'm gonna do mine probably a little quicker. It'll take a little bit longer for you guys to get those little pock marks to go away. But for the sake of the video, I'm gonna kind of jump through for you guys. That way you don't have to watch me do this forever. As tedious as I'm sure that it will feel for you guys for a little bit, watching me do it probably even will seem worse. Felting is a process I really love and it's a lot of fun. And once you get the hang of it, you can do anything. You can always keep an eye out. We'll have a lot kind of going on and hopefully a lot more coming out as well. So once again, you kind of go to the other side as well. That's going to be kind of wrapping him in a little blanket right now. You're going to go to the other side and same thing, just add it in. I kind of plan my overlap a little bit so that anywhere that's really bare from the top over on those last little bit, those fringe edges, I can cover up as I layer back on the other side. And then same thing, just poke all the way around, getting his little body. Like I said, kind of anywhere that's bare, just pull that needle really gently over and you can get those covered. And poke. All right, we'll continue on that. Like I said, I don't want to draw this out for you guys too far, as it'll come really easily once you start going. It'll be like, oh, I see what's happening. And you'll really get the hang of it and be able to kind of work your own magic with these. So the next thing with these is to give their body like a little bit of form, like this little crease right here for his back leg and then his front leg. All you're going to do is you're going to kind of pick that spot, and sometimes I'll trace it out. There's no really good way. You can't really use a pencil or anything. So you just kind of start poking in a straight line really gently. And I kind of do one that's a little bit more spaced out. You're kind of creating like a perforation. And then the more comfortable you get with that shape and you're happy with it, you just follow that same curve, poke in a line on that line, and you're going to get that same shadow happening for his leg there that we see on this guy. And then same thing with his little front leg. It's just like a little curve the opposite direction. So poke. It's a little harder to do this backwards, but I just want you guys to make sure you can see this. Poke that line, and you're just gonna work into that same thing for his front leg that we did for the back. Yeah. All right, and then you'll get that little kind of nub for his little front paws. And then if you don't like how this is kind of bulgy, just condense it a little further. No big deal, it's just working the same way that we did to create the forms. You're just pushing all of those rovings together a little more, which can't ever fault the connection, right? You're gonna be creating an even stronger connection for that color as well. And so then you'll have those little creases for the body. And you'll just wanna copy that on the other side. I like to kind of envision, trace out, and then I can usually copy it and make it a pretty close impression for that second side as well. So same thing, you'll just wanna go over and create that straight line. It just takes repetition going right over the top of it, like tracing. Like you would with tracing with a pencil. And then same thing with his little foot in the front. That one might be a little bit different, but nothing is perfectly symmetrical, right? So don't worry if you notice it's a little off. You can always adjust a little bit as well. Yeah, because his little foot. And if you wanted to in the front to distinguish, you could just kind of finish those out with a little V. Just kind of goes backwards almost to pull those little foots and just continue that circle forward. But yeah, that's to give him his little shape. And then you're gonna continue the same thing. We're gonna cover his head. I'm gonna jump to his ears though, so I can show you guys that as well. Because it's pretty basic and we're gonna know how to do the head, but for the ears, it's just the same thing. Just take a little bit less roving. You wanna start with a little less than before. That way you can kind of cover it right up there. I like to wrap it in kind of a circle at this point. And then you can leave a little bit of that middle bare, and so you're not trying to work harder, right? Work hard, smarter, right? Is it? Work smarter, not harder, right? Yeah. Took a minute, but we got there. So if you kind of wrap it, you can leave a little bit of that middle. It's some finagling, so give it a try, see what works for you guys. The back is a little bit bare for me, but I'd rather have kind of that wrapping in the front, and then I can go back and fill that in. I'm gonna turn for you guys, and then you're just gonna, same thing, cover that up, poke, poke, poke it into place. And then just continue on the other ear as well. None of this is, new at the moment, right? We're just continuing the same process. It just gets a little more difficult because it's a different shape. And once again, you'll want to finagle however you need to hold this or make it work for you so that you are safe. You can kind of keep your fingers as clear as possible. Maybe do it on that side for a little while, then you can hold it up. The little ears got stuck together a bit. And then you can just kind of push that around wherever you need to. You can always also lay it down flat to get some of these back spots. Pull that other ear aside, and then the more you poke, since you are poking through a pretty thin form, it will connect. You just want to make sure you're not poking that straight into your foam either. So you just continue that anywhere you've got. It'll be quite the little finagling, right? You gotta kind of figure out what works for you. But be patient with it. It'll take a little time. Also, you might want to take a break, stretch out a little bit. This is kind of a long time that we kind of start to pull our shoulders in and kind of force our hands to be kind of tight into our body. So make sure you stretch out and breathe through that. It's funny to always remind ourselves, but it's important to give your body that break as well. Otherwise, you're going to kind of stand up from this and just feel really tight and heavy in your lower back and your shoulders. And especially in your arm that you're working so hard with right now. All right, so same thing, you're gonna kind of coat that, and then you'll switch to the other side, get that ear done. Oh, I left a little over here. Boop, boop, boop. All right, once again, kind of just wrapping it around and getting it kind of settled in, and then poke, poke, poke again for our color. All right, so that will be our body, and then we'll move into our next spot in a second.